A warm welcome to you. This is the Truth Report. First, the headlines. From captivity to freedom, survivors of a brutal 3-month ordeal reveal chilling details of life in terrorist hands. Relentless terror attacks forced thousands in Kauru County to flee as fear and desperation grip the region. Nigeria's army chief gives troops a 30-day ultimatum to hunt down and eliminate notorious terror leader Bello Turji. We begin the news in northwest Nigeria, where 8 Nigerian hostages, including women and children, have finally regained their freedom after spending 3 months in captivity at the hands of armed Fulani militants. The victims, kidnapped from Banda village in Kauru County, about 35 miles southeast of Kaduna State, endured severe abuse, starvation, and brutal treatment. Truth Nigeria TV's correspondent Mike James visited the survivors in the Mairo precinct of Kauru County, where they shared their harrowing experience.
The pain and trauma of captivity are evident on the faces of these survivors. Among them, 2 young girls, just 5 and 8-year-old, had spent months living in inhuman conditions. One of the freed captives, Simon Nuhu, revealed that his family has been forced to raise the ransom to secure their release, while dozens more remain trapped in the hands of their abductors.
Even up to 3 weeks, they kidnap him. Now look at how he's looking at. So I'm trying to say something here. The government should seriously look into what is happening and take a good step on it. We pay 40 million, but they say we should bring 100 million. So our people is still with them. We have almost 26 people with them. So now they have just released 8 people. So we still have people there, and they are still what? They are still pressuring us for us.
One of the most heartbreaking cases is that of Joel Nuhu, a 27-year-old father of 2 and a pastor of the Assemblies of God Church. Joel could hardly speak, his voice weak from months of starvation and abuse. He managed to speak off camera. Joel described how he and others were brutally beaten with horsewhip daily and forced to eat grass to survive.
He graduated not less than 3 weeks when they kidnapped him.
The survivors were left severely malnourished, their bodies frail and weak from prolonged mistreatment. Some could barely walk, while others suffered long-term injuries from the constant beatings. The haunting testimonies of this survivor reveals the grim reality of mass kidnapping in Nigeria, where terrorists operate with impunity, using ransom payment to fund their growing networks. As these survivors begin their long road to recovery, hundreds more remain in captivity, their fate uncertain. The mass kidnapping in Nigeria are not just local crises. Security expert warns that unchecked violence in West Africa could destabilize the region, with ripple effects on migration, international trade, and even global security. From Kaduna, Mike James, Truth Nigeria TV.
Well, still in Kaduna State, the farming community of Liberia has suffered repeated attacks over the past year. Between January 2024 and February 2025, militants have raided the area 22 times, leaving at least 60 people dead and more than 120 in captivity. Many residents have been forced to flee, abandoning their homes, crops and livestock, and taking up shelter as internally displaced persons. Truth Nigeria's Luca Beniat has more on this.
The kidnapping people come attack us. That is why we leave Liberia. We're hanging around this LGA primary school in Somagari. Some of the people are living in Kasoma Gani, some are Kala, some are Kauru local government, some are Guarumi and so on, and etc. So in fact, on Monday, those are people that kidnapping come and attack us. They carry 3 people in the building. Some are still there in the bush, but yet they never come back, and they come on Monday and attack us to carry 3 people again, which we are very, very, very sorry about that. But we want the federal government and the state government to look for that issue to assist us, to help us. We should see the end of this kind of thing because we are very, very suffer a lot.
Ni abinda ya kawo kasuwa magani Fulani ne sun ka kore mu a kasan Libere gaba daya. Muna fama da wahala mun zo na nan kasuwa magani abinci ya gagara da mu. Ga yayan mu suna kuka kudin ba abinda zamu yi masu taimako. Domin gudu mun bar abinci mu a daji ba mu girbi ba. Ga yayan mu ga wahala ba abinda zai taimake mu kuka mu ga gwamnati. Ko zai ya dube mai ga wahala da muke ciki isan hanyar da zai yi don yi mana taimako.
Kidnapper sun zo sun tarwatsa mun gari gaba daya ba ma kaso magani kadai ba wasu suna kaso magani wasu suna maraban redo wasu suna kujama wasu suna dokan karfi wadansu suna kan mukama wadansu suna ugama wadansu kuma suna kauru ungon ganye fambeguwa duka mutane na suna wurin saboda tsananin koran kidnapper sun kore mu sun tashi zuwa idan ba mu kwana a gida da dare ba muna dawo da safi za su zo su kore mu da rana za su zo su kore mu da dare ma ba bacci matsalan shine za su tafi da mutane su sa kuɗi su ce a basu miliyan 30 a basu miliyan 50 wani zubi kuma ana gama biyan kuɗin a daji a kashe wasu ba su dawo duka ba in an zo garin neman mutanen a harbe wasu kafin a tafi da saura. Gwamnati dai daga masarauta zuwa local government shi dai sarkinmu yana tashi da shi mun tafi nasa da shi sau 4 mun tafi Kauru domin haɗa hannu da mutanen Kauru sau 2 yana ta ƙoƙarinsa sai a ce mana sojoji za su zo gobe za su zo jibi ba mu gansu ba yanzu haka ma sojoji da mutanen Kauru sun kawo su dukan karshe to su suke taimako bangaren mu yanzu amma ba dama mutum ya je.
Standing behind me are displaced, largely women. The men are not here, but they are around, from a community called Libere, some 25 kilometers west of this place. They have become IDPs after they have been constantly attacked by people they clearly identified as Fulani herdsmen, whom we call bandits in Nigeria. They have so far lost all their crops. They have run away and left their livestock. Right now they are begging to feed, and you can see children here who are looking very malnourished. All they are asking for now is for something to feed themselves. Their stories are very horrible as we try to cover them in the interviews that I have done.
For the hundreds of displaced families in Libere and other communities, survival now depends on aid from local charities and the government. Many fear they may never return home. Luka Binyat, Truth Nigerian TV, Kaduna State.
And days after Fulani militants attacked the Okomaji community in Otumba local government area of Benue State, about 60 miles south of Makurdi, the state capital, many residents remain unaccounted for. The attack is the latest in a wave of violence targeting Christian communities in Benue State, a region predominantly Catholic and Christian, where Christian farming communities frequently clash with heavily armed Fulani militants. Reacting to the continuous attacks, Solomon Daliap, the Chief Executive Officer of the Emancipation Center for Crisis Victims in Nigeria, a non-governmental organization, has called on the Benue State government to put an end to the attacks to avoid loss of lives and the state being overrun by Fulani militants.
I condemn that in its entirety, that it is purely an act of terrorism meted out on innocent people who are living their life without any hitches around. But of course, the gamut of the whole thing is it's not all about the attack, but it's about the rationale behind it. Looking at what happened on the plateau, where we have over 151 villages and communities that have been overrun and forcefully taken over by Fulani, militants, and have made them a land underground. I could see the picture of that being replicated, which calls for an urgent intervention from the appropriate authorities. Otherwise, Otupo local government will become a den of terrorists. Just as we had it on the plateau, it started as an religious hitches or crisis, and lo and behold, today it has become a full-scale terrorism. And of course, we are calling on the appropriate authorities, particularly the security agents, to rise up to the occasion. Enough of this late response or late or non-response to distress situations as it happened there. Because of course, from the available testimonies of the affected persons, that the security agents were called on time as at the time the incident occurred. But of course, their response was just something that is very pathetic. It was an unbecoming, and so we wouldn't want the repeat of same.
And Prince Eniola Olajuni, the national president of the Afenifere Youth Council, a prominent socio-political group representing the interests of the Yoruba people, one of Nigeria's major ethnic groups, has been kidnapped, with his captors demanding a ransom of approximately $65,000 and 2 tricycles for his release. The council's national secretary confirmed the abduction, revealing that Olajuni sustained gunshot wounds during the attack. A video has surfaced online showing Olajuni pleading with Nigerians to help raise the ransom.
My fellow brothers and sisters, I beg you in the name of God, Chief Stalin, Basaderomu, Ashuraju, my lovely wife, Omalera. Hey, Nigerians, help me. Your 100,000, 50,000, 1 million will go a long way to save my life. My name is Prince Eniola Olajuni. God bless you. Aderomu, please help me to spread this video.
Well, this disturbing video has sparked outrage and renewed concerns about the rise in kidnappings for ransom in Nigeria. Well, despite growing public outcry, Nigerian security agencies have yet to comment on the situation or outline any efforts to secure Olajuni's release. His abduction highlights the country's worsening security crisis, where armed groups frequently target civilians for ransom, often operating with little resistance from law enforcement. Well, coming up after the break, infighting in Nigeria's Senate, can a divided leadership unite a troubled nation? More details when we return. Stay with us. Thank you for staying. A recap now of our top stories. 8 Nigerian hostages, including women and children, have finally regained their freedom after spending 3 months in captivity at the hands of armed Fulani militants. The victims, kidnapped from Banda village in Kauru County, about 35 miles southeast of Kaduna State, endured severe abuse, starvation, and brutal treatments. The farming community of Liberia has suffered repeated attacks over the past year. Between January 2024 and February 2025, militants raided the area 22 times, leaving at least 60 people dead and more than 120 in captivity. Many residents have been forced to flee, abandoning their homes, crops and livestock, and taking up shelter as internally displaced persons. And Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, has given troops a 30-day deadline to eliminate or capture Bello Turji, a notorious warlord responsible for a wave of deadly attacks across the country's northwest. The army chief paid a visit to Zamfara State in northern Nigeria, where he made the proclamation ordering soldiers from the Joint Task Force Operation Hadarin Daji to take decisive action against Turji, whose brutal raids have fueled violence in Zamfara, Sokoto, and parts of Kebbi states. The ultimatum comes amid rising terror attacks in the region, where armed groups have terrorized communities, displacing thousands and overwhelming security forces.
You all agree with me that in the last 2 or 3 months, so much has been done here in decimating these criminal elements. For example, you can't hardly hear anything about the Lakurawas in the last 3 months because our soldiers and officers are on their trail, moving from one point to the other. As they are moving from one point to the other, we are pursuing them, and we intend to continue with that. It's the same thing with the fight against the bandits there. In the last few months, we killed very prominent bandit leaders like Samala Boka, the likes of Boderi. All those ones are dead. And as we speak, we are still pursuing them and to see how we can make the entire Northwest very safe. Security is everybody's business. So we expect the populace to support us the more, give us information so that we can do our jobs better. For as long as we do that, even our collective enemies will leave a space for development.
Still talking security, Nigeria is taking steps to boost its domestic defense industry, with officials saying the country could soon meet its own military hardware needs and even supply other nations. The country's Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, announced that the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria is on track to ramp up production following the recent approval of the Defense Industries Act of 2023 by President Bola Tinubu. Matawale emphasized that reducing reliance on foreign military imports will strengthen Nigeria's defense capabilities, conserve foreign reserves, and bolster local manufacturing.
The expectation that we have in DACON is to reach the limit of our requirement, the military requirement and other paramilitary agencies, particularly on arms and ammunition, which I believe by now, before, I don't believe DACON can be able to produce 10,000 rounds of ammunition. But today, how many rounds of ammunition that we have produced and forwarded to the Nigerian military? As I said, our target is to produce 300 million rounds of ammunition. That is the target that we have. And to be doing some productions of arms and ammunition here, particularly some of the MRAV, UAVs and other equipment for the military and other security agencies. So we have a lot of tasks that was given to the Director General, which he is capable and he is equal to the task. And I believe within no limited time, we should be able to come here and celebrate the full productions of arms and production within our own country.
Well, amid economic hardships and security crises across Nigeria, a different kind of battle is playing out, not on the streets, but in the halls of the nation's Senate. A dispute over a simple seating arrangement has exploded into a national controversy, exposing deep political divisions and raising concerns over governance, gender bias, and power struggles. At the center of the storm is Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who refused to move from her designated seat, an act of defiance that has led to a lawsuit. With lawmakers locked in conflict, many Nigerians are asking, if the Senate itself is this divided, how can Nigeria be united? It all started with a seemingly routine order. During a recent plenary session, Nigeria's Senate President Godswill Akpabio directed Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to relocate to a different seat, but she refused, challenging Akpabio's authority and insisting her rights had been violated. The disagreement quickly escalated. The chamber erupted in a shouting match and Akpabio ordered security officers to remove Akpoti Uduaghan, but her colleagues intervened, preventing a physical ejection. The fallout did not end there. Days later, Akpoti Uduaghan filed a defamation lawsuit against Akpabio, demanding $120 million in damages over comments made by his senior aide. The remarks, marking her appearance and dismissing her concerns, sparked outrage, with critics accusing Akpabio of gender discrimination. Now, Akpoti Uduaghan faces a disciplinary hearing after the Senate voted to refer her to the Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Some view this as a routine matter of Senate procedure, while others see it as a calculated effort to silence dissent.
I am not against Natasha. I'm not for anybody. I'm just saying that the Senate is an institution, and that institution needs to have at its dashboard integrity as number one.
It's nothing that has to do with gender. It's nothing that has to do with hatred. It's nothing that has to do with any form of malice.
This is once in a while will occur, but please, we want to ask that while we are referring this matter to a relevant committee, let us ponder on the drama that unfolded on that day and see how we can mitigate against the possible consequences on the integrity and the image of this institution so that we can move forward in the interest of this country.
I think part of the problem is when people come from court-declared senators, they miss the orientation. The management of the National Assembly is hereby ordered to organize periodic orientation, particularly for senators who are midstreamers, who can midstream and did not start when their colleagues started. Because I remember that this particular senator, on the day she was sworn in, raised her hand to speak. I was scared, but I had to recognize her because I was saying, you just gave her the rule book. Part of what we give to you when you are sworn in is a standing order of the Senate. So I said, has she even opened the rule book to know what she's going to say? But she made the contribution on that day. I think 2 days later, she brought a motion. There's nothing wrong in being vibrant, but there's a lot wrong when you don't know anything about the procedure.
Public concerns have intensified over the ongoing conflict between Senate President Akpabio and Senator Akpoti Uduaghan, with notable figures weighing in on the controversy. Political analyst Patu Tommy and former Education Minister Obi Ezekwesili have weighed in, warning that such internal divisions only weaken Nigeria's fragile democracy. Ezekwesili accused Akpabio of routinely humiliating female senators, highlighting Nigeria's dismal ranking in global gender representation. With women making up just 4.4% of the National Assembly, the country lags behind in political inclusivity. Meanwhile, ordinary Nigerians struggling with economic hardship and worsening security matters are left watching in frustration as the lawmakers fight over seats instead of solving the country's real problems. And a growing controversy in Nigeria is raising questions about journalistic integrity after major newspapers awarded top government officials for excellence in leadership. New Telegraph, a Nigerian national daily, recently named Abba Kabir Yusuf, the governor of Kano State, as Governor of the Year for Educational Development. The recognition comes just weeks after another major newspaper this day honored 4 other governors. But critics argue these awards are little more than public relations tactics. Veteran Nigerian journalists who spoke to Truth Nigeria TV say media organizations are profiting from these awards, often giving them to officials who can afford to pay rather than those who have truly made an impact.
Why are they giving those awards? What have those people, the recipients, done to deserve such an award? Have they actually performed, or is there any other benefit the giver wants to derive from that award?
So the people, it's a question of how much do you have and how much are you willing to give us? And then you can pronounce what you want to be awarded and somebody will award it to you. That is what is there. So, to the award given to the governor of Kano State, Governor Yusuf, the organization, the New Telegraph newspaper, it's possible they've gone to Kano and see whether Yusuf is doing something credible or not. But I want to ask, up to this moment, we have so many out of school children in Kano State. Is the governor doing anything about them? We have all the street urchins, beggars in Kano. Has he done anything about them? But he wants to be popular, he wants to be noticed.
Well, that's all from the Truth Report. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.